Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? Matt here with YoVideogames, and I'm back with another review, and this one might be a little short because I'm still recovering from feeling a little under the weather, but I didn't want to let that stop me, and from telling you all about one of last month's potentially coolest games. Okay, we all know like a lot of really cool games came out last month, but one of the first games was one of the most unique and fun and best looking and musically definitely needs to be in the conversation, and of course I'm talking about South of Midnight. Yes, I played this game immediately as it came out on Game Pass. It's still available there because it's a Microsoft first-party game, and I think a lot of people maybe slept on it. Maybe they saw the sort of Spider-Verse style animation, which you can turn that off in the game. That is an option if you so choose. You don't actually have to have the game look like the sort of stop motion, animated on twos look to it if you wanted. But anyways, just kind of getting it out of the way here. This game is massively, I think, slept on, and I think it's one of the presentation-wise and narratively speaking, one of the best games to come out this year. Is like straight up, hands down. I think a lot of people might have been thrown off by that, or maybe they didn't hear much about the gameplay itself, which we'll kind of get into there. But I think more importantly, what we should really talk about first here is the story and narrative, and then this is a really, really cool game. So it's basically about the America's Deep South, but a modern fairy tale. And when I say modern fairy tale, think something like how something takes place in a modern era, but is still very fantasy rooted. So Edward Scissorhands, if you need like a sort of point of reference or something like that, modern fairy tale. So it's a modern fairy tale in the Deep South, basically Louisiana, stretching from there to maybe the lower stretches of the Appalachian Mountains, and kind of covers all the sort of areas around that sort of sector of the United States of America. And what it's really about at the end of the day is you're playing as a character who is supposed to more or less heal the souls. They call it in the game the Grand Tapestry, and I really don't want to give too much away because it's a really short game. And the less you know going in, the better. Just know that it's actually very well done. But anyways, the point of the game is, you have your main quest, which is you're just trying to find your mom who got lost in a storm. And along the way, you would discover you have these powers to basically mend the souls, or wayward souls, or lost souls, if you will. Again, they call it the Grand Tapestry, and you're a weaver. And basically, what you do is you help patch in all the ripped and torn, emotionally torn things that kind of like represented by like ghosts and spirits. They call them haints. And again, they use a lot of actual real world folklore and mythology of the American Deep South to tell its tale. And so as you go through the course of the game, each chapter by chapter or level by level, area by area, you're basically healing the soul of a lost, tormented, wayward, I guess you could call it a ghost. Again, the word ghost is actually not used in the game. It actually is haint, and you'll understand why when you play it. But yeah, basically some tragedy will have occurred in the past, and as you go through the game, you'll help mend and fix that in this sort of hurricane-ravaged landscape. So that's kind of like your sort of Wizard of Oz motif at the beginning of the game. Is there's a massive hurricane and flood, and that kind of sets off in motion this sort of Dorothy gets whisked away to the land of Oz, although it's not really Oz in this case. It's just sort of a very fantastical version of the town she lives in. And yeah, everything, it's kind of funny because like as much as crazy stuff happens, all the townsfolk just kind of roll with it. But at the same time, it's like it is still kind of, they are acknowledging it as well as happening. So it's actually kind of an interesting, again, modern fairy tale aspect to the design. And again, I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, so it's structured sort of piece by piece, if you will, like a different area of the Deep South, a different environment. So it's not all just, if you thought, okay, this game is just going to take place all in a swamp or something, it doesn't. That is one area, but then there are many other areas that it takes place in, which is, again, a good, showing an indication of the varied landscape that our world inhabits, and that how there's really no such thing as like you can't take a huge chunk of a continent and just say there's only one biome. There's multiple biomes in every chunk of every continent on this planet. So unless the Sahara Desert, I guess that's kind of all desert for pretty much everywhere in one direction. But anyways, yeah, this is a fantastic game as far as narrative goes, and it's frankly kind of short. In fact, the whole game can kind of be beaten about 12 hours. I think it took me about 12 and a half hours to actually go through the whole game, start to finish. So this is a short game, but it's also, that means it's actually paced really well because you're not stuck or you're not like in an area for so long that you grow bored of it or something that like is so like overbearing that it just takes you a while, or you just have to collect so much stuff that you're just like running around the same central area for too long. So it is a very to the point, straight and narrow narrative experience, and that actually helps it. Again, I'll get to the graphics and the music, which again, these are phenomenal things as well. But I just really want to emphasize the point here that the story and the characters and the dialogue are really well done. You actually get to see some really, really strong performances from the main character and the multiple antagonists and just other characters you encounter along the way. You even get to see one of the pioneers of mocap, Ahmed Best. He plays a role in the game I won't say, but he's very good at it, and it's a joy to watch. Just so many delightful moments and sequences. Like, it's a game just about tons of great little moments and story beats that all come together for one short, sweet experience. Now, what is the gameplay of the game? It's basically split into two camps, and you've got platforming, climbing/platforming, and then you've got combat. Now, the platforming is a little loose, but very generous and very breezy. I think you got double jump, you got, you never really feel like you're ever unable to do the things you want to do. Like, the game does have invisible walls kind of where it doesn't want you to go, and again, it is a linear experience. This is by no means, shape, or form an open world game, but like, the platforming it's obvious, it's breezy, it works. That's probably and it feels good. Like, it feels fine to jump around in this game. You never feel like it feels too stiff, or it feels too clunky. No, not with the platforming. The platforming feels great. The combat is Combat is a 6 out of 10. It's adequate. It functions. It works. It does what it's supposed to do, but it just isn't that interesting. Now, on the one hand, it has a good flow to it, so the character doesn't feel like they're stuck in place when they're swinging their weapon around. So you are going to be dodging and kind of zipping around the combat a lot. However, here's the main problem with it, is that the combat doesn't have enough depth. It doesn't have a big enough skill tree. It doesn't have enough variety to carry itself, especially for the number of combat encounters in the game, because between story and platforming segments in South of Midnight, the game just constantly throws little combat rooms or little combat areas, round or rectangle, little combat zones. And that is just sort of their solution for gameplay. And they do add new enemy types as you progress through the game, but there's only like a total of like maybe 7 overall. And you're just going to end up doing the exact same kind of fights and the exact, almost roughly approximately the same size of an arena, and you're not going to be doing much different over the course of the entire game. And they throw too much combat. Like, this would be fine if they had a very simple basic combat system like this, if there wasn't so much combat. Like, the amount of combat they put in the game to sort of kind of pad the length, it doesn't do it any favors, because it just isn't that interesting. It isn't that in depth. It doesn't feel, I mean, again, things that could improve it would be a little more lenient on dodge canceling maneuvers or something, and you're going to get hit off screen from projectiles from enemies almost way too much. Again, there is a small skills tree that you can kind of try to overcome some of the minor annoyances in the combat system, but it just isn't enough. And then the other problem with the combat is in the fact that the boss battles are kind of disappointing. Well, there's a few good boss battles, but here's the thing: two of the boss battles are gimmicks and rely nothing on your combat ability whatsoever. So everything you build up means nothing in a couple of the major boss encounters, and only one boss encounter, to my memory, actually requires you to do actual physical combat that you build up in your skill tree. A bit of a spoiler here, but again, this is just sort of to sort of set expectations here. There is no last boss in this game. The last boss of the game is a 4-way fight of fighting 4 waves of jobber enemies. That's it. It's very clear that there was supposed to be a last level and possibly a last boss that was just cut from the game. It just feels like it, and you'll know when you get there. But yeah, the combat is just fine. It's not the worst. It's not, again, at least you're smoothly zipping around and dodging around, so you're not like stuck in place. But it's the most 6 out of 10 combat, and they put way too much of it in there, and they even throw in it's just a wave of normal enemies for your end boss fight of the game. So it's the one thing that really kind of like drags down the game from being like a perfect experience, is that like, well, you have this okay, fine, decent combat, but there's just too much of it. And again, it gets kind of, it's overshadowed in a good way, because yeah, it's the story and the music and the graphics really do shine, and they really do make a really strong case for the rest of the game. But yeah, when you have to sit there and think about it, and it's like, I've played games that have sort of nothing burger combat. A good example for myself would be 13 Sentinels, where it had this RTS mode that was completely locked off and separate from the main game, which was a visual novel, and that gameplay in 13 Sentinels was brain dead and kind of a waste of time, but at least it didn't interrupt the flow of the story. Well, that's not true. It technically does, because you will get to locked off points, but it's so quick and easy to do, you can just blow right through it. Here, you're going to kind of be forced to fight kind of like the same long-winded fights. Not too long-winded. I mean, it's not. I don't want to give the impression that like the fights go on way too long. They don't. But it's like, yeah, you're just going to be doing the same thing over and over when you get into these sort of like rote battles. And it's just the one thing that's like, man, if there was a little more sauce, there's a little more tech, if the combat was a little more in depth, this wouldn't have been a problem. But it is what it is. But like moving on from that, I want to say it's incredible how this kind of has that sort of early 2000s AA game feel, but it's in a AAA game polish. The graphics, I think, in this game are absolutely outstanding. Now, some areas obviously look better than others. Like, some areas are kind of meant to look bad because, you're in, like, say, like a pig farm or whatever. But there are moments in areas of this game that are just honestly jaw-dropping, just full of color and vibrancy, and then there's like areas that are kind of weird and spooky, and there's hardly anywhere in this game that I wasn't actually impressed with just how it looked. This was very, very well done. I mean, it helps that it's a linear game, but like, it is a very good looking game. And it's very much taking a sort of, okay, we don't have a ton of combat experience from this developer. So, what we're going to focus on here is our strengths, our storytelling, and our presentation. And you have just outstanding looking graphics, and again, it obviously helps along with the story that's told with them. And then, of course, the last but not least, and this is going to get, sadly, I know there's another big RPG that just came out. It's going to kind of overshadow everything. But hear me out. If you know me, you know I'm a music guy. The music in this game is so good. And every area of the game has its own theme and song. And as you progress and as you solve the mystery of what poor tortured soul is in a certain area, the music will escalate, and it adds and adds and adds. And when you get to the end of it and you're conquering the final boss or whatever of that area, it'll go into a full-blown musical number complete with lyrics, and they have like different types of music for each area and different vocalists for each area, and every section of the game has its own unique theme that is slowly building and building and building until you reach the climax of it, and you get this full-blown just musical. It's almost like a musical combat simulator by the end of it. Like, there's one in particular, again, where you're actually getting to use, it's a boss where you actually get to use all your combat moves you've been building towards on a boss, and not just doing a gimmick to do this 3 times to defeat the boss, because you're not supposed to fight it normally. But anyways, you get to that's one boss, and the music is just going nuts, and it's just kind of like, it's like the most raw, visceral. Like, if you've played to the end of Devil May Cry 5 or played to the end of Devil May Cry 5 on Virgil's mode, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you get up there and the music is just syncing with the last fight, and it's just chef's kiss, moi, so good. Again, I know we're all kind of like on the hype train of of the other RPG. Obviously, like, taking all the conversation and music. But I'm telling you right now, this is something that should absolutely be played at a Game Awards show. This should be played. Like, the ending theme is so good. In particular, like the main, like the crux, the crescendo, if you will, the theme that plays multiple, like more than once through the game, but also within the credits, hit me so hard, and it stuck with me, like really, like, in a really good way. And I was floored musically by this game. It was beautiful. This was such a good. I want this in games. Now, that being said, you know what? I actually can't even really think of any moment. It is a little quiet sometimes, but then again, like, you start the game and you're playing it and you're like, oh, it's kind of doing the atmospheric thing, but you just keep playing it, because rather than, okay, where a game just is like, it uses music only in cutscenes, or it uses music only in battle. You play the game and it's not that there's not music in the main level or while you're platforming or climbing. It's that the music is building as you're slowly solving and unraveling, the story of that level. And as you get to the end of it, the music is now built up to a certain point. So, and then you'll be doing things, you might just be climbing an area, and the music is just, all of a sudden, like, the music is singing, like people are singing and telling you the full tale of whatever poor, soul you're trying to heal, as you're just climbing up the surface of an area. And this is great. I mean, this is video games. So, again, I think people are really sleeping on this game. I can't in good faith sit there and say, like, well, the combat's great. The combat's fine. It's not bad. It's not going to be anything that makes you quit the game. It's not going to make you rage or anything. It'll just be sort of like, okay, we're doing combat. Let me zip around the battlefield, kill a couple things again, and then, move to the next platforming or storytelling segment of the game. But yeah, this is an excellent game. And again, I think it has multiple difficulties as far as I'm aware. So if you're kind of I just want to watch the story, I think that's in the game as well. If there is, and if you want a little more challenge, I think there's a harder mode as well. I always play things on normal personally. It just kind of feels the way the developers wanted it to be done. So I'm just going for that. But yeah, like, as far as like the rest of just like, and you'll unlock more stuff and more abilities, like gliding and stuff, or you'll have like fun little like small flying sequences. And so they break the game up a little bit, and they have really cool escape sequences and parkour sequences and stuff too. So there is a lot more fun stuff in the game that they kind of do, is, beyond just the combat, which is okay. So again, if you wanted a game that's breezy, it's going to only like 12, 13 hours. It's just, you're just going to go in, you're going to see, just a beautiful, haunting, fun, well done, 13-hour experience, in a unique setting that I have not really seen explored in video games almost at all, if at all. I don't think it has. Like, we've seen games in the Deep South. We've never seen like a modern fantasy, in the Deep South, something that would be like a more adult version of, say, Over the Garden Wall or something like that. So this is something that is one of those, you got to play this. This is such a unique, lovely experience. It looks great, sounds amazing. Again, the platforming, climbing is fun and breezy. Combat is there, but you get through it real easily. So you're sleeping on this game. I know you are. You shouldn't be sleeping on it. Don't sleep on this game. Go try it out. It's on PC. It's on Xbox. It's on Game Pass. I don't know if they've announced any sort of release date for other systems yet. But if you got a PC, if you got an Xbox, if you're getting a Game Pass for, say, some of the other big games that have come out, check this game out. It's totally worth your time. It's absolutely one of the better games of the year. But I'm going to be real. Again, the sort of the dragging on that the combat does bring it down a little bit, and I'm going to be honest, brutally honest, and I'll say this is about an 8.5. This would have been an easy 9.5 for me if the combat had any sort of sauce or wasn't just so kind of disappointing. And again, like, when you get to the end and you just know there is a last level that's just not there. There's a last level, and also what I feel there should be a last boss somewhere that just isn't there. So, yeah, you'll get to a point where, like, it feels like this this feels like it's wrapping up a little too quickly here. But that being as said, again, 8.5. Really, and again, if you're not that, if you're really not in it, say, oh, I don't really care about combat, I'm just going to play it on easy anyways. Oh, then this game's an easy 9. Boost that score up if if all you want to do is just experience the game and the platforming without the combat. Then yeah, actually, I would say this game goes up on an easier difficulty. From a ratings wise. So yeah, 8.5, maybe even higher depending on how you feel about how much you value, presentation and stuff over the combat. But please check it out. I think this game is absolutely worth everyone's time. It'll be, and you can check it out anytime. Just go in, play it. I think it's totally worth any amount of time you're going to spend on it because it's so short and so breezy and it looks so good. And it, again, story, characters, voice acting, all excellent. So yeah, been a great year for video games. This is another great game and I hope you all check it out. All right, let me know what you guys think and I'll see you on the channel later, dudes.